to build a fire. Chapter 1. The Call of the Wild. In the vast expanse of the Yukon wilderness, where the sun hangs low on the horizon and the air is crisp with the promise of snow, a lone figure trudges through the snow-covered landscape. His breath forms frosty clouds in the frigid air, and his footsteps leave deep impressions in the powdery snow. This is a land untouched by man, where the howl of a wolf echoes through the silent forest, and the only law, the law of survival. And yet, for all its harshness and unforgiving beauty, there is a wildness here that calls to the soul, beckoning those brave enough to heed its siren song. For the man, drawn by the promise of adventure and the lure of untold riches, the call of the wild is irresistible. With each passing mile, he feels himself growing stronger, more alive, as if the very essence of the wilderness courses through his veins. But beneath the veneer of excitement and anticipation, there is a nagging sense of unease, a voice whispering in the back of his mind that warns of the dangers that lie ahead. He pushes it aside, telling himself that he is a man of experience, a man who knows how to survive in the wild. And yet, as he presses onward into the heart of the wilderness, he cannot shake the feeling that he is being watched, that unseen eyes follow his every move with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. It is a feeling that will only grow stronger in the days to come, as he confronts challenges that will test his courage, his strength, and his very will to survive. Chapter 2. The journey begins. As the man presses forward into the vast expanse of the Yukon wilderness, he reflects on the decisions that have brought him to this point. He remembers the tales of riches waiting to be unearthed in the frozen north, the stories of men who had struck it rich with nothing but a pickaxe and a dream. But now, as he trudges through the snow, his pack heavy on his shoulders and his breath coming in ragged gasps, those tales seem like distant echoes of another world. Here, in the heart of the wilderness, there is no room for dreams, only the cold, hard reality of survival. With each passing hour, the landscape seems to grow more desolate, more unforgiving. The trees loom like silent sentinels, their branches heavy with snow, while the wind whispers through the icy branches like the voice of a ghost. Yet still, the man presses onward, driven by a stubborn determination to prove himself in the face of adversity. He knows that every step brings him closer to his goal, closer to the riches that await him at the end of his journey. But as the hours turn into days, and the days into weeks, he begins to wonder if perhaps he has bitten off more than he can chew. The cold seeps into his bones, gnawing away at his resolve, while hunger claws at his stomach like a ravenous beast. And yet, despite the hardships, despite the doubts that plague his mind, he refuses to give up. For deep down, he knows that he is not just fighting for gold or glory, but for something far more precious, his own survival. So he grits his teeth and presses forward, one foot in front of the other, his eyes fixed on the horizon and the promise of a better tomorrow. For in the end, he knows that it is not the destination that matters, but the journey itself and the strength that it brings out in him. And so, with the setting sun casting long shadows across the snow-covered landscape, he trudges onward into the unknown, his heart filled with hope and his spirit unbroken. For in the wilderness, where only the strong survive, there is no room for doubt or hesitation, only the relentless drive to keep moving forward, no matter what obstacles may lie in your path. Chapter 3. A cold and unforgiving terrain. As the days stretch into weeks, the man finds himself facing a landscape unlike anything he has ever encountered before. The snow-covered plains stretch out before him, vast and empty, with not a soul in sight for miles around. The cold seems to seep into his very bones, chilling him to the core and sapping his strength with each passing hour. His breath comes in ragged gasps, and his limbs feel heavy and numb with exhaustion. Yet still, he presses onward, driven by a stubborn determination to conquer the wilderness and claim his rightful place among the legends of the North. He knows that every step brings him closer to his goal, closer to the riches that await him at the end of his journey. But as the days drag on and the cold only seems to grow more intense, he begins to wonder if perhaps he has underestimated the harshness of the Yukon winter. The wind howls through the trees like the wail of a banshee, and the snow falls in thick, heavy flakes that obscure his vision and make each step a struggle. And yet, despite the hardships, despite the doubts that plague his mind, he refuses to give up. For deep down, he knows that he is not just fighting for gold or glory, but for something far more precious, his own survival. So he pushes himself to his limits, his muscles screaming in protest with each movement, his mind consumed with thoughts of warmth and shelter. But still, he keeps moving forward, driven by a determination that borders on madness. For in the wilderness, where only the strong survive, there is no room for weakness or indecision, only the relentless drive to keep moving forward, no matter what obstacles may lie in your path. And so, with the icy winds biting at his face and the snow crunching beneath his boots, he trudges onward into the heart of the unknown, his spirit unbroken and his will as strong as steel. Chapter 4: Survival Instincts. As the man continues his journey through the unforgiving wilderness, he finds himself relying more and more on his instincts to guide him through the treacherous terrain. With each passing day, he learns to listen to the subtle cues of the natural world around him, to read the signs written in the snow and the ice. He learns to distinguish the tracks of different animals, to recognize the warning signs of an impending storm, and to find shelter in the most unlikely of places. His senses become sharper, honed by the constant struggle for survival, and he finds himself growing more attuned to the rhythms of the wilderness. But even as he learns to trust his instincts, he knows that he cannot afford to let his guard down for even a moment. For in the wilderness, danger lurks around every corner, and the difference between life and death can hinge on the smallest of decisions. So he moves with caution, his eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of danger, his ears tuned to the slightest sound. And when the wind picks up and the snow begins to fall, he knows instinctively what he must do: find shelter and wait out the storm. And so he hunkers down in a makeshift shelter, his body huddled against the cold, his breath coming in shallow gasps. Outside, the wind howls like a banshee, driving the snow before it in swirling clouds that obscure his vision and chill him to the bone. But inside his shelter, he is safe, cocooned in a world of his own making. And as he waits out the storm, he knows that he owes his survival not just to his strength and determination, but to the instincts that have guided him through the darkest of nights and the coldest of days. For in the wilderness, where only the fittest survive, it is not enough to rely on brute strength alone. One must also learn to trust in the wisdom of the ages, to heed the call of the wild that echoes in the depths of the soul. And so, with each passing day, the man grows stronger, more resilient, until he becomes a force of nature in his own right, a living embodiment of the wilderness itself. Chapter 5: Nature's Wrath. As the man ventures deeper into the wilderness, he finds himself facing the full fury of nature's wrath. The wind howls like a vengeful spirit, driving the snow before it in blinding sheets that whip at his face and sting his skin. The cold is relentless, gnawing at his bones and numbing his limbs until he can scarcely feel them at all. His breath comes in ragged gasps, his lungs burning with the effort of each labored breath, and yet still, he presses onward, driven by a determination that borders on madness. For he knows that to falter now would mean certain death, swallowed up by the unforgiving wilderness that surrounds him on all sides. But as he struggles against the elements, he begins to wonder if perhaps he has finally met his match. The storm rages on unabated, the wind tearing at his clothes and threatening to rip him from his feet with each gust. And then, just when he thinks he can go on no longer, he sees it, a flicker of light in the distance, a beacon of hope in the midst of the storm. With renewed strength, he forces himself to his feet and staggers toward it, his heart pounding in his chest and his breath coming in ragged gasps. And when he finally reaches the source of the light, he finds himself face to face with a small cabin unrolled among the trees. Relief floods through him, a tidal wave, washing away the fear and exhaustion that have plagued him for so long. For in the wilderness, where every moment is a battle for survival. Even the smallest reprieve can feel like a victory. And as he steps through the door of the cabin and feels the warmth wash over him like a benediction, he knows that he has finally found the sanctuary he has been searching for. But little does he know that the true test of his strength and resilience is only just beginning. For the wilderness is a fickle mistress, and danger lurks around every corner. Yet still, he stands tall and unyielding, ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead with a courage that knows no bounds. Chapter 6. Facing Adversity. Inside the shelter of the small cabin, the man finds himself faced with a new set of challenges. Though he is safe from the biting cold and howling wind, he knows that his respite is only temporary, and that the wilderness outside still holds many dangers. As he settles in for the night, he can't shake the feeling of unease that gnaws at the edges of his mind. He knows that he is not alone out here in the wilderness, that there are other creatures who call this place home, creatures who may see him as nothing more than prey. But even as fear grips his heart, he refuses to give in to despair. He knows that he must stay vigilant, that he must be prepared to defend himself against whatever threats may come his way. And so, as the night wears on and the darkness deepens, he keeps a watchful eye on the door of the cabin, his senses alert for any sign of danger. Outside, the wind continues to howl, and the snow falls in thick, heavy flakes that blanket the landscape in a shroud of white. But inside the cabin, there is only the sound of his own breathing, the crackle of the fire in the hearth, and the steady beat of his heart. And though he knows that the night will bring its own set of challenges, he also knows that he is not alone, that he has the strength and resilience to face whatever adversity may come his way. For in the wilderness, where only the strong survive, it is not enough to simply endure. One must also learn to adapt, to overcome, to thrive in the face of adversity. And as the man settles in for the night, he knows that he is ready to face whatever challenges the wilderness may throw his way, with a courage that burns bright and a spirit that refuses to be broken. Chapter 7. The Fire Within. As the man awakens to the dim light of dawn filtering through the small cabin window, he feels a renewed sense of determination coursing through his veins. Despite the challenges that lie ahead, he knows that he must press on, driven by a fire within him that refuses to be extinguished. With steely resolve, he sets about preparing for the day ahead, stoking the embers of the fire in the hearth and gathering supplies for his journey. Outside, the world is cloaked in a blanket of white, the trees heavy with snow and the air still with the hush of early morning. But the man pays little heed to the beauty of the wilderness around him, his mind focused solely on the task at hand. For he knows that every moment wasted is a moment lost, and that he must make the most of the precious time he has been given. And so, with a sense of purpose that borders on obsession, he sets out once more into the wild unknown, his footsteps leaving deep impressions in the snow as he forges ahead into the icy wilderness. With each passing mile, the landscape seems to grow more desolate, more unforgiving. But the man pays it no mind, his eyes fixed on the horizon and the promise of a better tomorrow. For he knows that no matter how dark the night may seem, there is always a glimmer of light waiting to guide him through the darkness. And as he presses onward, fueled by the fire within him, he knows that nothing can stand in his way. Chapter 8. A Battle for Survival. As the man ventures deeper into the wilderness, he finds himself locked in a relentless battle for survival. Each day brings with it new challenges, new obstacles to overcome in his quest to conquer the unforgiving landscape that surrounds him. He battles against the biting cold, his breath frosting in the air as he trudges through knee-deep snowdrifts. He battles against hunger, his stomach gnawing at him with a relentless intensity that threatens to consume him from within. But most of all, he battles against the creeping sense of despair that threatens to engulf him with each passing day. For he knows that in the wilderness, hope is a precious commodity, one that must be guarded fiercely against the encroaching darkness. And yet, despite the odds stacked against him, the man refuses to give up. With each setback, he picks himself up and dusts himself off, his resolve only strengthened by the challenges he faces, for he knows that deep within him is a strength that cannot be broken, a spirit that refuses to be extinguished. And as he presses onward, fueled by the burning desire to prove himself against the harshness of the wilderness, he knows that victory is within his grasp, for in the end, it is not the size of the obstacles that matter, but the size of the heart that beats within. And as the man faces down the challenges that lie ahead, he knows that he is more than equal to the task, his spirit unyielding in the face of adversity. Chapter 9. The cruel embrace of winter. As the days grow shorter and the nights longer, the man finds himself locked in a merciless embrace with the bitter cold of winter. Each breath he draws feels like daggers in his lungs, and each step he takes is a battle against the relentless chill that seeps into his bones. But still, he presses on, driven by a determination that borders on madness. For he knows that to falter now would mean certain death, swallowed up by the icy grip of the wilderness that surrounds him on all sides. Yet as the winter wears on, he finds himself tested in ways he never thought possible. The food runs scarce, and the firewood dwindles until there is barely enough to keep the hearth burning through the night. And then, just when he thinks he can go on no longer, disaster strikes. A blizzard sweeps down from the north, engulfing the landscape in a swirling maelstrom of snow and ice. 4 days, the man is trapped inside the small cabin, his only companions the howling wind and the relentless pounding of the storm outside. But still, he refuses to give up hope, clinging to the belief that he will emerge from this trial stronger than ever before. And when the storm finally passes and he steps outside into the blinding sunlight, he feels a sense of triumph unlike anything he has ever known. For he knows that he has faced down the worst that winter has to offer and emerged victorious, his spirit unbroken and his will as strong as steel. For in the wilderness, where only the strong survive, it is not enough to simply endure. One must also learn to thrive, to find strength in the face of adversity and courage in the depths of despair. And as the man stands alone in the vast expanse of the frozen wilderness, he knows that he is more than just a survivor. He is a conqueror, a master of his own fate, and a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human soul. Chapter 10. Into the unknown. With the worst of winter behind him, the man sets out once more into the unknown, his heart filled with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. Though the journey ahead is fraught with danger, he knows that he must press on, driven by a desire to explore the wild and untamed wilderness that stretches out before him. As he ventures deeper into the heart of the wilderness, he finds himself confronted with new and unfamiliar challenges at every turn. The terrain grows rougher, the landscape more rugged, and the dangers more acute, but still, he presses forward, his eyes fixed on the horizon and the promise of adventure that lies beyond. For he knows that in the wilderness, every step brings with it the possibility of discovery, of finding something new and wondrous that will leave him forever changed. And so, with each passing mile, he feels himself growing stronger, more attuned to the rhythms of the natural world around him. He learns to read the signs written in the earth, to listen to the whispers of the wind, and to trust in the instincts that have guided him thus far. But even as he revels in the beauty and majesty of the wilderness, he knows that danger lurks around every corner. The creatures that call this place home are fierce and unforgiving, and the landscape itself is a harsh and unforgiving mistress. Yet still, he presses on, fueled by a thirst for adventure and a hunger for discovery that knows no bounds. For in the end, he knows that it is not the destination that matters, but the journey itself and the experiences that shape us along the way. And so, with the wind at his back and the sun on his face, he ventures ever deeper into the unknown, his spirit soaring with the knowledge that he is truly alive, truly free, and truly at home in the world. Chapter 11. Lessons learned. As the man continues his journey through the wilderness, he finds himself reflecting on the lessons he has learned along the way. Each challenge he has faced, each obstacle he has overcome, has taught him something new about himself and the world around him. He has learned the value of perseverance, of never giving up even when the odds seem insurmountable. He has learned the importance of humility, of recognizing his own limitations and seeking help when he needs it. He has learned to respect the power of nature, to marvel at its beauty and majesty, while also understanding the dangers it can pose. And perhaps most importantly, he has learned to trust in himself, to believe in his own abilities and instincts even in the face of uncertainty. But even as he reflects on the lessons he has learned, he knows that his journey is far from over. There is still so much left to discover, so many mysteries waiting to be unraveled in the world, an untamed wilderness that stretches out before him. And so, with a renewed sense of purpose and determination, he presses onward, eager to see what new adventures await him around the next bend in the trail. For he knows that in the wilderness, every moment is a chance to learn, to grow, and to become the person he was always meant to be. And as he ventures deeper into the heart of the unknown, he does so with a sense of excitement and anticipation, knowing that whatever challenges may lie ahead, he will face them head-on with courage, resilience, and a spirit that knows no bounds. Chapter 12. A glimmer of hope. As the man journeys further into the wilderness, he begins to feel a glimmer of hope stirring within him. Despite the challenges and hardships he has faced along the way, he senses that he is drawing closer to his goal, closer to the answers he seeks. With each passing day, he feels himself growing stronger, more confident in his abilities and more attuned to the rhythms of the natural world around him. He learns to find joy in the small victories, a warm ray of sunlight breaking through the clouds, the call of a distant bird, the sight of fresh tracks in the snow. And as he travels deeper into the heart of the wilderness, he begins to sense that he is not alone, that there are others out there who share his love of adventure and thirst for discovery. Though he may never meet them face to face, he takes comfort in the knowledge that he is part of something greater than himself, part of a vast and interconnected web of life that spans the globe. But even as hope begins to blossom within him, the man knows that he must remain vigilant. For in the wilderness, danger can strike at any moment, and the difference between success and failure can hinge on the smallest of decisions. And so, with a cautious optimism burning in his heart, he presses onward into the unknown, his eyes fixed on the horizon and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. For he knows that as long as he remains true to himself and follows his instincts, he will find the answers he seeks, and perhaps even discover something greater than he ever imagined possible. Chapter 13. The Long Night. As the sun sets on another day in the wilderness, the man prepares to hunker down for the night. The air grows colder, and the shadows lengthen, casting the landscape in a cloak of darkness. Inside his makeshift shelter, he tends to the fire, feeding it with dry branches and tinder until it roars to life, casting a warm glow that illuminates the small space. He checks his supplies, ensuring that he has enough food and water to last through the long night ahead. But despite his preparations, the man cannot shake the feeling of unease that gnaws at the edges of his mind. The wilderness is a dangerous place, especially after dark, and he knows that he must remain vigilant if he hopes to survive until morning. Outside, the wind howls like a banshee, and the trees sway ominously in the breeze. The night is alive with the sounds of the wilderness, the call of a distant owl, the rustle of leaves in the wind, the faint crunch of snow beneath the feet of unseen creatures. But amid the cacophony of sound, there is one noise that sends a chill down the man's spine, the low, guttural growl of a predator on the prowl. He knows that he is not alone out here in the darkness, that there are other creatures who roam the wilderness in search of prey. And so, he sits by the fire, his senses alert for any sign of danger, his heart pounding in his chest. He knows that the night will be long and fraught with peril, but he also knows that he is not one to back down from a challenge. And so, with a steely resolve burning in his heart, he braces himself for whatever dangers the long night may bring, ready to face them head-on with courage and determination. For in the wilderness, where only the strong survive, There is no room for fear or hesitation, only the relentless drive to keep moving forward, no matter what obstacles may lie in your path. Chapter 14. A Test of Endurance. As the night wears on and the fire burns low, the man finds himself locked in a battle of wills with the wilderness itself. The cold seeps into his bones, chilling him to the core, and the darkness presses in on him from all sides, suffocating him with its oppressive weight. But still, he refuses to give in. With each passing hour, he draws on reserves of strength he never knew he had, pushing himself to the limits of his endurance in his quest to outlast the long night. Outside, the wind howls like a banshee, and the trees groan and creak in protest as they sway in the breeze. But the man pays it no mind, his focus honed on the task at hand, to survive until morning, no matter what it takes. And as the hours drag on, he finds himself slipping in and out of a fitful sleep, his dreams haunted by visions of the dangers that lurk in the darkness. But each time he wakes, he forces himself to shake off the fear and press on, driven by a determination that knows no bounds. For in the wilderness, where only the strong survive, it is not enough to simply endure. One must also learn to adapt, to overcome, to thrive in the face of adversity. And as the man battles against the elements, he knows that he is proving himself to be more than just a survivor. He is a warrior, a champion of the world, and a testament to the indomitable spirit of the human soul. And so, as the first light of dawn breaks over the horizon, casting long shadows across the snow-covered landscape, the man finds himself filled with a sense of triumph unlike anything he has ever known, for he knows that he has faced down the darkest of nights and emerged victorious, his spirit unbroken, and his will as strong as steel. Chapter 15. The Will to Survive. As the sun rises on a new day in the wilderness, the man emerges from his shelter, weary but triumphant. He has survived the long night, weathering the storm of darkness and emerging stronger for it. With each step he takes, he feels a renewed sense of purpose coursing through his veins. He knows that he has faced down the greatest challenges the wilderness has to offer, and emerged victorious, his spirit unbroken, and his will as strong as ever. And as he looks out across the vast expanse of the wilderness, he knows that his journey is far from over. There are still mountains to climb, rivers to cross, and adventures to be had in the wild and untamed world that stretches out before him. But he also knows that whatever challenges may lie ahead, he will face them with courage, resilience, and a spirit that refuses to be broken. For in the end, he knows that it is not the destination that matters, but the journey itself and the lessons learned along the way. And so, with a heart full of hope and a spirit soaring with the knowledge of all he has overcome, the man sets out once more into the wilderness, eager to see what new adventures await him around the next bend in the trail. For he knows that as long as he remains true to himself and follows his instincts, he will find the answers he seeks, and perhaps even discover something greater than he ever imagined possible. And as he ventures deeper into the heart of the unknown, he does so with a sense of excitement and anticipation, knowing that whatever challenges may lie ahead, he will face them head-on with courage, resilience, and a spirit that knows no bounds. Thanks for watching.